Reactive dog training is one of my favorite subjects to talk about here on YouTube and on TikTok because I know so many dog owners, just like me, who struggle with having a highly reactive dog. But my biggest fear is that these reactive dog owners will find the wrong dog trainers on these social media platforms. And by finding the wrong dog trainer, I mean learning about the worst thing you could do with your reactive dog that a lot of dog trainers actually preach. So let's jump right into the one thing to never ever do with a reactive dog, and trust me, you're making the reactivity worse if you do this. Mochi's tails. So what's the mistake that a bunch of reactive dog owners make unintentionally or intentionally? It's punishing your dog for having a reaction. Before I get into the various reasons why this is a huge mistake, let's define what reactivity is and what is going on inside your dog's head when they're reacting. Reactive dogs are often mistaken for aggressive dogs, and they're simply dogs that have an overreaction to certain triggers in their environment. These reactions often look like lunging, barking, growling, etc. And these triggers could be other dogs, it could be moving vehicles, it could be people, it could be certain types of people. It can literally be anything that your dog has a certain reaction to it, either extremely negative or extremely positive. I know a bunch of dogs who are extremely dog reactive because they want to say hi to every dog they meet, so then they're not necessarily having a negative reaction. But I also know a lot of dogs like Mochi who are having an extremely negative reaction, but because they don't like when other dogs get too close to him on a leash. Your dog also might just be reactive because their genetic makeup. For example, again, like Mochi, who's a herding dog, they are reactive or frequently reactive towards moving vehicles because of that herding instinct and desire to chase. So by definition, your dog is acting out of severe discomfort or overexcitement, which is the same thing as being uncomfortable, just like humans do when we're extremely afraid or stressed or have a big reaction to something. We as humans have a reaction in form of, panic attacks, anxiety, fear, crying, etc. So going back to the big mistake people make when training their reactive dog, if a human child was screaming, crying, whatever, because a scary clown jumped at him, would you yell at them? Would you put a prong collar on them and yank it really hard as a punishment? Would you tell them no because you're annoyed that they're having a reaction? No, you wouldn't, or I hope you wouldn't. If you would, that's a different story. I'm concerned for you. Dogs are the same way. When dogs have a reaction, it's really easy for us owners to get really frustrated, especially if it happens all the time, or if your dog is huge and dragging you on his leash as they're reacting towards a small dog walking by. But next time, just take 2 seconds to remember that your dog is actually extremely uncomfortable and they're reacting this way because they are so severely uncomfortable. They simply don't know what to do. And the only way for them to cope with that stress is to lunge, bark, etc. Again, when you yell at them, you're actually making their stress levels and adrenaline just keep increasing. And if you punish them, for example, a lot of dog trainers tell you to pop their leash when they have a reaction, and let's say they actually do stop reacting because you punish them, don't mistake that as the training working. In reality, if you do that, you're suppressing their emotions and feelings, and one day they're just gonna blow up. And by the way, yelling at your dog for having a reaction is a surefire way to ruin the bond you and your dog have, because you aren't advocating for them in that stressful situation and you're acting against them. So like I just said, punishment, if you think is working because your dog suddenly stops reacting or doesn't react anymore when he's on that prong collar or whatever, it's actually almost like, closing the door of a bedroom because the bedroom's on fire and you don't want the fire to spread to the rest of the house. It's just a really temporary thing to mask the reactivity, but to properly train a reactive dog and rehabilitate them, you have to kind of reprogram their brain and their reactions to their triggers. So how do you properly do that with a reactive dog? Well, I already have a comprehensive guide on how to basically rehabilitate your reactive dog without any punishment, only with positive reinforcement, and that's linked right here on the screen.